Hi, Brian, February 22nd, Wellington, New Zealand, broadcasting from the home studio here in Paradise. And we've been down at the Hog Rally over the weekend on the waterfront of at Wellington, and there have been a few activities taking place there. So I thought we would share a bit of that with you, plus the fact that I got my first motorcycle when I was 15 years old, and while I don't ride as much as I used to, I still do have a motorcycle. Don't have a Harley Davidson, but do find the whole subculture of Harley Davidson hog riders somewhat amusing, and without a doubt these people appeared to me last night mainly to be those who are growing old disgracefully, and I totally approve of that. Just want to go back, now we've had our frivolity to serious issues that we've been canvassing. Not going to range into the theological, but we're going to go back to a newspaper item which I drew to your attention from a local paper February the 18th. And here we've got the headline that I wanted you all to see, that the slump worse than the depression. Yep, that's it. Global slump worse than the depression. And you got that. So that's really important that we do get that. And unfortunately, a lot of the political people in this country and in other countries haven't understood exactly or wanted to understand where this is taking us. I raised the issue of the junk bond dealers in an earlier video, but I'm going to bring to your attention again a wonderful work. It's called Den of Thieves, written by James B. Stewart. Den of Thieves, there it is again, Den of Thieves, written by James B. Stewart. And in that book it actually documents what happened with Malcolm and Boski being the prime two players in the downfall of junk bonds. Junk bonds, of course, were an outrageous idea. They were more than an idea because they were actually a kind of a market that was taking place, and it's really the equivalent of a subprime mortgage. So Clint Eastwood said recently in an interview that regarding the recession-depression that we're in now, that people don't learn from history, and they don't, because this book, The Den of Thieves, documented the frenetic activity of the share market in the 80s, and 26 years later we haven't learned a thing, because we went down the same path. Basically, junk bonds were dressed up again, and they were relabeled, if you like, subprime mortgage. So this is all about the lack of financial discipline and the inability to learn, and the way that popular culture is driven. And definitely we're in a time, have been, I guess, since the beginning of the First World War, more and more where losses were socialised and the profits were privatised. Now that is very, very clear to many of you, but I think the issue that we have to talk about really is that socialism is alive and well amongst the middle classes, and capitalism is forced upon the working class. Working people have capitalism, and the elite, the establishment elite in particular, have socialism. That is the sharing of the wealth produced by working people amongst themselves. This trickle-down theory has been disproved so many times, and it is such a crock. Nothing trickles down from the top. That's why people of wealth stay where they are, because it just doesn't come down. And I mean, there are some interesting issues about how a society should be structured and function, but I, having said I wouldn't go theological, I am going to just raise this theological issue, biblical issue, that in Leviticus it talks about the obligations of the community the community of rulers, of those who are in positions of power, that they must always remember the orphan, the widow, the poor, and the stranger. Orphan, widow, poor, and the stranger. Now, that's a safety net that we're talking about, and in the US, probably not so evident, but particularly in many of the European countries, including Australia and New Zealand, we do have that safety net. And I think that's what makes our society more tolerable. From time to time, people come forward with criticism that the kind of welfarism that we practice is just enough to keep people poor. Now, that's another issue. But I think we're just going to leave this particular broadcast here at this point, and we can pick up on another date. But just wanting to remind you all again, the headlines we're getting in our media at the moment, pretty serious stuff. Global slump, worse than depression. And remind you again, Den of Thieves, all documented. It's happened before, guys. And I guess it goes back to what my great-grandfather used to say to me, and he was in his early 90s when he said it, was that willful waste brings woeful want. Okay, we'll see you next time.